The smart TV betrayed me on a Friday night, which feels about right. Fridays were supposed to be sacred in the Lasker household. Movie night, microwave popcorn, and the illusion that we were still a functional family. I should have known something was wrong when Elena actually showed up on time. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "What are we watching tonight?" Sophie asked, curling up next to me on the couch with her usual anxious energy. At 16, my daughter had developed this habit of glancing between her mother and me like she was watching a tennis match where someone might get decapitated. "Your pick, kiddo," I said, handing her the remote. Elena settled on the far end of the couch, scrolling through her phone with the dedication of a surgeon. "Real estate never sleeps," she always said. Neither does adultery, apparently, but I didn't know that yet. I'm Tom Lasker, 42, cloud engineer for a mid-sized tech company in Cedar Falls. I spend my days making sure other people's data doesn't disappear into the digital void. The irony of what happened next wasn't lost on me. I'm an expert at backing up everyone else's secrets. Sophie clicked through Netflix while Elena typed furiously on her phone, probably coordinating another late showing with a client. The blue glow of the TV reflected off our faces, making us look like ghosts of the family we used to be. "Dad, the TV's acting weird," Sophie said, frowning at the screen. The smart TV had auto-synced to Elena's cloud storage, a feature I'd set up months ago to make sharing family photos easier. What popped up wasn't our vacation pictures from last summer. The folder was labeled Recent Videos, and the thumbnail made my blood freeze. Elena in a truck I recognized, Greg Hanlon's blue Ford F-150, my oldest friend since college, my daughter's honorary uncle, the guy who'd been helping out around the house while I worked late. Sophie gasped. Elena's phone clattered to the floor. "Tom, I can explain," Elena started, but I was already clicking through the folder with the methodical precision of a man watching his life explode in high definition. Video after video. Elena and Greg in his truck. Elena and Greg at the Riverside Motel. Elena and Greg in what looked like our kitchen, laughing about something while I was apparently at work. The timestamps went back 6 months, but the file that really caught my attention was a PDF titled Paternity Results, Confidential. Sophie was crying now, soft hiccuping sobs that cut through me like glass. Elena was talking, words tumbling out in a panicked stream about accidental sinking and it's not what it looks like and we need to talk privately. I stood up slowly, feeling like I was moving underwater. "Sophie, pack a bag. You're staying at Grandma Ruth's tonight." "Tom, please let me explain. Pack a bag." I turned to Elena, and I must have looked different because she actually shut up. "We'll talk after Sophie's gone." 20 minutes later, I was dropping my daughter off at my mother's house 3 blocks away. Ruth took one look at Sophie's tear-stained face and my expression and simply nodded. "How long?" she asked. "I don't know yet." "Want me to call Jack Duvall?" My mother, the retired paralegal, already thinking 3 steps ahead. "Yeah, tell him to expect my call tomorrow." When I got home, Elena was pacing the living room like a caged animal. The smart TV was off, but the damage was done. 20 years of marriage, and it took a software glitch to show me the truth. "It just happened, Tom. Greg and we never meant—" 6 months, I said quietly. "The timestamps go back 6 months." She stopped pacing. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under. The real estate market is brutal, and you're always working, and Greg was just there when I needed someone to talk to." "Talk to?" I laughed, and it sounded foreign in my own ears. "Is that what we're calling it?" Elena's face crumpled. "I love you, Tom. I love our family. This thing with Greg, it's just physical. It doesn't mean anything. The paternity test suggests otherwise." The color drained from her face. You saw that? Sophie's not mine, is she? Elena sank onto the couch, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I wasn't sure, she whispered. The timing was so close, and I hoped. You hoped you could keep lying to me forever. Tom, please. We can work through this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. Sophie doesn't have to know. Sophie already knows. She was sitting right here when your intimate tape started playing on the family TV. Elena buried her face in her hands. Oh God, what have I done? I walked to the kitchen and started making coffee, because that's what you do when your world ends. You make coffee and try to think clearly. Elena followed me, still talking, still pleading, still trying to manage the situation like it was a difficult client. Greg's going to leave Mel, she said. We were going to tell you both together after the holidays. We were trying to find the right time. There's no right time to blow up two families. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. I was copying files to my personal drives when the doorbell rang. Elena and I looked at each other across the kitchen island like gunfighters in an old western. That'll be Greg, I said. Tom, don't do anything stupid. Stupid would have been trusting my wife and my best friend. That ship has sailed. I opened the front door to find Greg Hanlon standing on my porch, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. His usually perfect principal's appearance was disheveled, shirt untucked, hair messy, eyes red. Tom, we need to talk. No, we really don't. Please, let me explain. I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. The November air was sharp, cutting through my t-shirt, but I barely felt it. Explain what, Greg? How you've been screwing my wife for 6 months? How my daughter might actually be your daughter? How you've been sitting at my dinner table, drinking my beer, and laughing at what a fool I am? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Greg ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd seen him make 1,000 times over the years when he was stressed. It used to make me feel sympathetic. Now it just made me want to punch him. Elena and I, we connected. Really connected. You've been so distant lately, always working, and she was lonely. So you thought you'd help her with that loneliness. What a good friend. I never meant for it to happen. It just evolved. Evolved. I tasted the word like something rotten. Like we're talking about biology instead of betrayal. Tom, I know you're angry. Angry? I laughed, and Greg actually took a step back. Greg, angry is what I get when someone cuts me off in traffic. This is something else entirely. What do you want from me? I want you to get off my property. I want you to stay away from my family. And I want you to prepare yourself, because everyone is going to know what kind of man you really are. Greg's face went pale. You can't tell people. My job, my reputation. Your reputation? I stepped closer to him, close enough to see the fear in his eyes. You're worried about your reputation? You're a high school principal who's been having an affair with a married woman? You think that's going to stay secret in a town like Cedar Falls? Tom, please, think about Mel. Think about our kids. I am thinking about them. They deserve to know who they're married to, who their father really is. Greg grabbed my arm. Don't do this. We can work something out. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back up at his face. Get off my property. He let go and backed toward his truck. This isn't over, Tom. You're right. It's not. I watched him drive away, then went back inside to find Elena crying on the couch. Real tears this time, not the manipulative kind she'd perfected over the years. What did you tell him? I told him the truth. Everyone's going to know. You can't do that to us, to the kids. I'm not doing anything to anyone. You and Greg did this. I'm just not going to help you hide it anymore. Elena looked up at me with mascara running down her cheeks. What happens now? I sat down across from her, suddenly exhausted. Now? Now you figure out where you're going to sleep tonight, because it's not going to be here. Now you figure out how to tell Sophie that the man she's called daddy for 16 years isn't her biological father, but that the man she's called Uncle Greg is. Now you figure out how to explain to Mel Hanlon why her husband has been cheating on her with her best friend. Tom, I'm not done. My voice was steady, controlled, which surprised me. Now you figure out how to rebuild your life after I tell everyone we know exactly what kind of person you are. Now you figure out how to live with the fact that you destroyed everything good in your life for a few months of excitement. Elena stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe I'd never let her see this side of me, the side that didn't forgive, didn't forget, and didn't let people walk all over me. I never thought you had it in you, she said quietly. Neither did I. Turns out we both learned something new tonight. I stood up and headed for the stairs. I'm going to bed. I suggest you find somewhere else to sleep. This is my house, too. Not for long. I was halfway up the stairs when I heard her phone buzzing with incoming calls. The gossip network in Cedar Falls was faster than fiber optic internet. By morning, everyone would know that Elena Lasker's cloud storage had betrayed her secrets. I should have felt guilty about what was coming. I should have felt sorry for Elena, for Greg, for their families who were about to be collateral damage in this war. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Powerful. The storm was coming, and for once, I wasn't going to be the one getting rained on. Saturday morning arrived with the subtlety of a nuclear explosion. My phone had been buzzing since 6 a.m. with calls, texts, and social media notifications. Cedar Falls was a town of 30,000 people who acted like 30 people when it came to gossip. I made coffee and scrolled through the messages while Elena's side of the bed remained empty. She'd apparently taken my suggestion about finding somewhere else to sleep. The first text was from my neighbor, Karen Mills. Tom, is everything okay? Saw Elena leaving late last night with suitcases. The second was from my coworker, Dave. Dude, what's this I'm hearing about you and Elena? The third was from Mel Hanlon. Tom, we need to talk. Now. I'd forwarded those cloud files to Mel around midnight, along with a simple message. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. It was the least I could do for a woman who'd been as betrayed as I had. My mother called while I was on my second cup of coffee. How are you holding up? She asked without preamble. I've been better. How's Sophie? Worried about you. She wants to come home. Not yet. Let me get through the weekend first. Jack Duvall can see you Monday morning at 9. I told him it was urgent. Thanks, Mom. Tom, whatever you're planning, be smart about it. Smart is all I've got left. I was getting dressed when I heard raised voices outside. Through the bedroom window, I could see a crowd gathering in the parking lot of Miller's Market across the street. Elena's red BMW was parked near the entrance, and even from a distance, I could see her gesturing frantically at someone. Mel Hanlon was standing 3 feet away from her, and she looked furious. I grabbed my jacket and headed outside, not because I wanted to help Elena, but because I didn't want to miss the show. Lying to my face for months, Mel was saying, as I got close enough to hear. Sitting at my kitchen table, drinking my wine, talking about book club while you were sleeping with my husband. Mel, please keep your voice down, Elena said, glancing around at the growing crowd of Saturday morning shoppers. Keep my voice down? Mel's voice went up an octave. You want me to keep my voice down? You destroyed my marriage, and you want me to whisper about it? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen, Elena? Were you planning to send me a nice card? Sorry I've been screwing your husband. Hope we can still be friends. That's when Mel slapped her. The sound cracked across the parking lot like a gunshot, and Elena stumbled backward, her hand flying to her cheek. The crowd of onlookers went silent, phones appearing in hands like magic. 23 years, Mel said, her voice breaking. 23 years I've been married to that man, and you threw it away for what? A few cheap thrills? Elena's composure finally cracked. It wasn't cheap. Greg and I love each other. We're going to be together. Then you can have him, Mel said. But you'll never be welcome in this town again. Not in my neighborhood, not in my stores, not in my world. You're nothing but a home-wrecking whore, and now everyone knows it. Mel turned and walked away, leaving Elena standing alone in the parking lot with 30 people staring at her, and at least 6 phones recording everything. Elena's eyes found mine in the crowd. For a moment, I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with 20 years ago. Vulnerable, scared, looking for someone to save her. Then I remembered the videos, the paternity test, and the 16 years of lies. I turned and walked away. My phone was ringing before I made it home. Elena. Tom, please, we need to talk. I think Mel said everything that needed saying. She hit me, in public. People were recording. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. This is all your fault. You sent her those files. I stopped walking. My fault? You could have handled this privately, but instead you decided to humiliate me. Elena, let me explain something to you. I didn't humiliate you. You humiliated yourself when you decided to have an affair with my best friend. I just made sure people knew the truth. The truth? The truth is that you've been a terrible husband for years. You work all the time, you never talk to me, you treat me like I'm invisible. So, you decided to sleep with Greg. I decided to find someone who actually cared about me. Did he care about you when he was lying to his wife? Did he care about you when he was pretending to be my friend? Did he care about you when he was helping Sophie with her homework, knowing he might be her biological father? Silence on the other end of the line. That's what I thought, I said. You want to know what's going to happen next, Elena? I'm going to divorce you. I'm going to fight for custody of Sophie. I'm going to make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what you did. And then I'm going to move on with my life, while you figure out how to live with the consequences of your choices. You can't take Sophie from me. Watch me. I hung up and blocked her number. The rest of Saturday was a masterclass in small-town gossip dynamics. My phone kept buzzing with calls from friends, neighbors, and co-workers who'd heard various versions of the story. Each retelling got more dramatic. By noon, Elena and Greg had been caught in bed together by me and Sophie simultaneously. By evening, there was apparently a fist fight involved. I didn't correct anyone. Sunday morning brought a new development. I was reading the paper on my front porch when Greg's blue Ford F-150 pulled into my driveway. He sat in the truck for a full minute before getting out, and I could see him gathering his courage. He looked terrible. Unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. The confident high school principal was gone, replaced by a middle-aged man whose life was falling apart in real time. Tom, Greg, can we talk? Man to man? We are talking. He climbed the porch steps slowly, like an old man. I know you hate me. I know I deserve it. But we need to figure out how to handle this situation. What situation is that? The paternity thing. Sophie. I set down my coffee cup and looked at him. Really looked at him. What about Sophie? If she's mine, biologically, then we need to discuss nothing. Tom, be reasonable. If I'm her father, you're not her father. You're a sperm donor. There's a difference. Greg's face flushed. That's not fair. Fair? I stood up, and Greg instinctively took a step back. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that I spent 16 years raising a daughter who might not be mine? Is it fair that my wife was sleeping with my best friend? Is it fair that Sophie had to find out about all of this by watching your intimate tapes on the family TV? I never meant for her to get hurt. But you didn't care if she got hurt, did you? You cared about getting laid. You cared about the thrill of sneaking around. You cared about having your cake and eating it too. That's not true. Isn't it? How many times did you come to my house for dinner, Greg? How many times did you sit at my table, play with my daughter, drink my beer, and then go home and text my wife about when you could meet up next. Greg's shoulders slumped. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. What do you want from me? I smiled, and it must have been an unsettling sight because Greg actually flinched. I want you to suffer, I said simply. I want you to lose everything, the way I lost everything. I want your wife to divorce you, your kids to be ashamed of you, and your job to fire you. I want everyone in this town to know that Greg Hanlon is a liar and a cheat who destroys families for fun. Tom, I want you to lie awake at night wondering if it was worth it. I want you to spend the rest of your life knowing that you threw away everything good for a few months of excitement. And I want you to remember that you did this to yourself. Greg was quiet for a long moment. What about Sophie? What about her? If she's my daughter? She's not your daughter. She's my daughter. Biology doesn't make you a father, Greg. Love makes you a father. Showing up makes you a father. Being there when she's sick, helping with homework, teaching her to drive, walking her down the aisle someday, that's what makes you a father. But legally, you have no rights. You're not on her birth certificate. You've never been her legal guardian. You have no claim to her whatsoever. Elena could change that. Elena's going to have bigger problems to worry about. Greg studied my face. What are you planning? I'm planning to protect my daughter and rebuild my life. What you and Elena do with the wreckage of yours is not my concern. He turned to leave, then stopped. We were friends once. Once. Not anymore. It doesn't have to be like this. Yeah, it does. I watched him drive away, then went inside to call Jack Duvall. Monday couldn't come fast enough. The rest of Sunday was quiet, which should have been a warning sign. In my experience, quiet usually meant someone was planning something. I spent the day backing up files, organizing documents, and preparing for war. Elena had always been better at playing games than I was, but she'd never played against someone who had nothing left to lose. That was about to be her first mistake. Monday morning brought Jack Duvall and a cup of coffee that could strip paint. Jack was my mother's age, with the kind of weathered face that came from 40 years of divorce cases and custody battles. His office smelled like old leather and broken dreams. So, he said, reviewing the files I'd brought, your wife had an affair with your best friend, and there's video evidence. Lots of video evidence. And you suspect your daughter isn't biologically yours. The paternity test confirms it. Jack whistled low. This is ugly, Tom. How do you want to play it? I want full custody of Sophie. I want the house. I want Elena to get as little as possible. The adultery helps, but Michigan is a no-fault state. The court won't punish her financially for cheating. What about the paternity issue? That's more complicated. If you're not Sophie's biological father, Elena could argue that you don't have standing for custody. I've been her father for 16 years. I'm on the birth certificate. Which helps. But if Greg decides to fight for parental rights, he won't. You sound confident. I am. Jack leaned back in his chair. What aren't you telling me? Let's just say Greg is going to have other things to worry about. Tom, whatever you're planning, don't do anything illegal. I wouldn't dream of it. By Tuesday, the story had spread through Cedar Falls like wildfire. Elena's real estate office was fielding calls from reporters, and Greg had been placed on administrative leave pending a school board investigation. I'd had nothing to do with that last part. Apparently, some concerned parent had called the school board to report that Principal Hanlon was having an affair with a married woman. The parent had even provided evidence, screenshots from social media, photos from the grocery store incident, and copies of some very interesting text messages. The parent had remained anonymous, of course. Elena called me from her sister's house in Grand Rapids, where she'd been staying since the weekend. You're destroying innocent people, she said without preamble. I'm not destroying anyone. You and Greg did that yourselves. Greg's kids are getting bullied at school. Mel had to take time off work because people keep calling her office. This has to stop. This stops when you and Greg face the consequences of your actions. What do you want, Tom? Money? The house? Just tell me what you want and we can end this. I want Sophie. She's my daughter, too. Is she? Because the paternity test says otherwise. Silence. Tom, please. We can work something out. Joint custody, visitation, whatever you think is fair. Fair would have been you not cheating on me with my best friend. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every single time you met Greg at that motel, you made a choice. Every single time you lied to my face about working late. You made a choice. Every single time you sat at our dinner table and pretended to be a faithful wife, you made a choice. I know I hurt you. You didn't hurt me, Elena. You destroyed me. There's a difference. So what? You're going to destroy me back? I'm going to make sure everyone knows who you really are. And then what? You think that's going to make you feel better? I guess we'll find out. Wednesday brought the billboard. I'd rented space on the biggest digital billboard on Route 127, right where it intersected with Main Street. Everyone driving through downtown Cedar Falls would see it. The message was simple. Elena Lasker and Greg Hanlon. When your cloud storage betrays your secrets. Cedar Falls scandal. Below the text was a QR code that linked to a website I'd created. The website contained edited versions of the videos. Nothing explicit, but enough to make the situation crystal clear. My phone started ringing at 7:15 a.m. Tom, what the hell is that billboard? It was Dave from work. Public service announcement. You can't do this to people. Watch me. Elena called 20 minutes later, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Take it down. Take it down right now. No. I'll sue you. I'll take you for everything you have. With what lawyer? Last I heard, you can't afford one. Greg will help me. Greg's got bigger problems. Haven't you seen the news? She hadn't. The Cedar Falls Gazette had run a front-page story about the school board investigation. Greg's photo was right there under the headline, Local Principal Under Investigation for Conduct Violations. Oh, God, Elena whispered. Yeah. Turns out having an affair with a married woman while you're in a position of authority doesn't look good to the school board. Who knew? You did this. I provided information to concerned citizens. What they did with that information is their business. Tom, please, I'm begging you. Take down the billboard. Stop this campaign against us. We'll give you whatever you want in the divorce. I told you what I want. I want Sophie. You can have her. Full custody. I won't fight it. And I want you and Greg to leave Cedar Falls. What? You heard me. I want you both gone. Move to Grand Rapids, move to Detroit, move to Mars for all I care. But I don't want to see either of you in this town again. This is our home, too. Not anymore, it's not. Thursday brought the confrontation I'd been waiting for. I was leaving the grocery store when I saw them, Elena and Greg, standing by his truck in the far corner of the parking lot. They were arguing about something, their voices carrying across the asphalt. I loaded my groceries and walked over. Tom, Greg said when he saw me coming, we need to talk. No, we don't. This has gone far enough, Elena said. You're destroying people's lives. I'm revealing the truth about people's lives. There's a difference. The billboard, the website, the calls to the school board, it has to stop. Why? Because it's cruel, Elena said. Because we're human beings who made mistakes, and we don't deserve this. I looked at her, really looked at her. She'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under her eyes. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wasn't wearing makeup. You don't deserve this? I said. You know what I didn't deserve? I didn't deserve to find out about your affair by watching your tapes with my daughter. I didn't deserve to discover that my best friend had been lying to my face for months. I didn't deserve to learn that the daughter I've raised for 16 years might not even be mine. Tom, Greg started. Shut up, I said without looking at him. You don't get to talk. You lost that right when you decided to sleep with my wife. We're sorry, Elena said. We're both so sorry. But this public humiliation, this destruction of our lives, it's not going to bring back your marriage. It's not going to change what happened. You're right. It's not going to change what happened. But it's going to make sure everyone knows what kind of people you are. What kind of people are we, Tom? Greg said. We're people who fell in love. We're people who made mistakes. We're people who are trying to deal with the consequences. You're people who destroyed 2 families for your own selfish pleasure. You're people who lied to everyone who trusted you. You're people who put your own desires above the welfare of your children. That's not fair. Life's not fair, Greg. If it was, you'd still be married to Mel and I'd still trust my wife. Elena stepped closer to me. What do you want us to do, Tom? How do we make this right? You can't make this right. You can never make this right. But you can face the consequences of your choices with whatever dignity you have left. And if we do that, you'll stop the campaign against us? I smiled. Elena, this isn't a campaign against you. This is just the beginning. The color drained from her face. What do you mean? I mean, I'm just getting started. I turned and walked away, leaving them standing in the parking lot. I had work to do. That night, I sat in my home office and opened up my laptop. Elena's cloud storage had been a gold mine of information, not just the videos but text messages, emails, financial records, and photos that painted a very clear picture of her affair with Greg. But more importantly, they painted a clear picture of Elena's other secrets. The text messages with her friend Stacy about Stacy's affair with her personal trainer. The emails with her friend Veronica about Veronica's gambling problem and the money she'd been stealing from her husband's business. The photos from the real estate conference in Detroit, where Elena and 3 other agents had been doing cocaine in their hotel room. Elena wasn't the only one with secrets. She was just the only one whose secrets had been exposed. So far. I created 3 anonymous email accounts and started typing. By Friday morning, Stacy's husband would know about the personal trainer. Veronica's husband would know about the gambling and the stolen money. And the Michigan Real Estate Commission would have some very interesting photos to review. Elena wanted to know what kind of people they were. They were about to find out. Friday morning brought chaos to the Cedar Falls real estate community. Stacy Morrison's husband had confronted her at the RE/MAX office, demanding to know about her affair with the personal trainer. Veronica Chen's husband had shown up at the Coldwell Banker office with printouts of bank statements and casino receipts, accusing her of embezzling from his construction company. And the Michigan Real Estate Commission had received an anonymous tip about several agents engaging in illegal drug use at a professional conference. I heard about all of this from Karen Mills, my neighbor, who worked as a receptionist at the title company that handled most of the real estate transactions in town. It's like a war zone over there, she said, standing in my driveway with her morning coffee. Stacy's been suspended pending investigation. Veronica's husband filed for divorce and reported her to the police, and Elena's license is under review. Sounds like a rough day for everyone. Tom, you didn't have anything to do with this, did you? Me? I'm just a cloud engineer. I don't know anything about real estate drama. Karen studied my face. You're scary when you're angry. You know that? I'm not angry anymore, Karen. I'm focused. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena. We need to meet now. I texted back, no. Please, this has to stop. It stops when I say it stops. Meet me at Riverside Park in an hour. If you don't, I'm going to Sophie and telling her everything. That got my attention. I called her immediately. You'll tell Sophie what? The truth. About the paternity test. About why we're really getting divorced. About what you've been doing to me and Greg. Sophie already knows about the affair. She saw the videos, remember? She doesn't know about the paternity test. She doesn't know that Greg might be her biological father. She doesn't know that you've been systematically destroying the lives of everyone connected to this situation. Elena. 1 hour, Tom. Riverside Park. Or I drive to your mother's house and have a very long conversation with our daughter. She hung up. I sat in my kitchen for 10 minutes, weighing my options. Elena was desperate, which made her dangerous. Desperate people did stupid things, and I couldn't risk her traumatizing Sophie any more than she already had. Riverside Park was mostly empty on a Friday afternoon. Elena was sitting on a bench near the playground, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap like she was trying to hide. It didn't work. Half the town knew her car by now. "You came," she said when I sat down next to her. "You threatened my daughter. Of course I came." "Our daughter. My daughter. You gave up the right to claim her when you decided to sleep with Greg." Elena pulled off her sunglasses, and I could see she'd been crying. "Tom, what you've done to Stacy and Veronica, they didn't deserve that. They made their choices. They're innocent. They're not innocent. Stacy cheated on her husband. Veronica stole money from her husband's business. I just made sure their husbands knew the truth." "How did you even get that information?" "You told me. In your text messages to them, in your emails, in your photos. You documented everything, Elena. Every secret, every lie, every betrayal. You kept it all in your cloud storage like some kind of digital diary." Elena stared at me. "You read all of my private messages?" "I read everything. Your conversations with Stacy about her trainer. Your emails with Veronica about covering up her gambling losses. Your texts with Greg about how stupid I was for not noticing what was happening." "Tom, my personal favorite was the message where you called me completely oblivious and said I was too boring to ever suspect anything. That one really stung. I was angry when I wrote that. You were honest when you wrote that. Maybe for the first time in our marriage." Elena was quiet for a moment. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to leave." "Leave Cedar Falls?" "Leave Michigan. Leave the Midwest. Go somewhere far away and start over." "This is my home." "This was your home. Now it's the place where everyone knows you're a cheating, lying, home-wrecking adulteress. How comfortable are you going to be living here?" Elena looked around the park, at the playground where Sophie used to play, at the walking path where we used to jog together on Sunday mornings. "What about Sophie?" "Sophie stays with me. Tom, she's my daughter. I love her." "You should have thought about that before you decided to blow up her family." "I made a mistake." "Stop calling it a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. A mistake is putting salt in your coffee instead of sugar. What you did was a choice. A series of choices, made over months, that you knew would hurt the people who loved you. I know I screwed up. You didn't screw up, Elena. You revealed who you really are. And now everyone else knows too." Elena put her sunglasses back on. "If I leave, will you stop? Will you stop destroying everyone connected to this?" "That depends." "On what?" "On whether Greg leaves with you." "He can't. Mel filed for divorce, but he still has kids here. He can't just abandon them." "Then he should have thought about that before he started sleeping with you." "Tom, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. I'm giving you both a chance to start over somewhere else. The alternative is staying here and dealing with the consequences of your choices every single day for the rest of your lives." "What consequences?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. "I've got 3 more websites ready to go live. One with all of your text messages about your friends' secrets. One with detailed financial records showing how you've been hiding money from me for the past 2 years. And one with some very interesting photos from that conference in Detroit." Elena's face went white. "You can't do that. I can do whatever I want with information that you stored in a cloud account that I had legal access to. Those photos, if the real estate commission sees them, your career is over. I know. Tom, please. Those other people don't deserve to be destroyed because of what I did. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you involve them in your lies. Elena stood up and started pacing. This isn't you. The Tom I married would never do something like this. The Tom you married trusted people. The Tom you married believed in marriage and friendship and loyalty. The Tom you married was naive enough to think that his wife and his best friend would never betray him. So what? You're going to spend the rest of your life destroying people? I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure that people face the consequences of their actions, starting with you and Greg. And if we leave? If we both leave Cedar Falls? Then I'll consider our business finished. Consider. Elena, you destroyed my family. You destroyed my marriage. You destroyed my friendship with Greg. You lied to me for months. You betrayed my trust, and you traumatized my daughter. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? I thought you loved me enough to forgive me. I did love you enough to forgive you. Past tense. But forgiveness doesn't mean there aren't consequences. Elena sat back down on the bench, her shoulders slumped in defeat. How long do we have? 2 weeks. That's not enough time. It's more time than you gave me to prepare for my world to fall apart. What about Sophie? When do I get to see her? That's up to Sophie. Tom. Elena. Let me be very clear about something. You are never going to be the primary parent in Sophie's life again. You are never going to be the one making decisions about her education, her health care, or her future. You gave up that right when you chose Greg over your family. She's my daughter too. No, she's not. She's Greg's daughter, biologically. She's my daughter emotionally. You're just the woman who gave birth to her and then abandoned her for a few months of excitement. Elena started crying again, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no desire to comfort her. 2 weeks, I said, standing up. Both of you, gone. And if we don't leave? I smiled. Then you'll find out what the rest of my revenge plan looks like. I walked away, leaving her crying on the bench. I had websites to launch and a daughter to pick up from school. The war was almost over, but I wanted to make sure I won decisively. That night, I sat in Sophie's room while she did homework. She'd been staying at Ruth's all week, but she'd asked to come home for the evening. Dad? She said, looking up from her math textbook. Yeah, kiddo? Are you okay? I'm getting there. I heard some kids at school talking about Mom and Uncle Greg. I closed my eyes. What did they say? That they were together. Like, together. Sophie, is it true? I looked at my daughter, smart, beautiful, innocent Sophie, and I made a decision. Yeah, kiddo, it's true. She nodded slowly. That's why you and Mom are getting divorced? That's why. And that's why Uncle Greg's wife is so mad? That's why. Sophie was quiet for a moment. Dad? Am I going to have to choose between you and Mom? No, sweetheart. You're going to stay with me. Your mom is going to be moving away. Forever? I don't know. Maybe. Sophie thought about this. Good. Sophie. She hurt you. She hurt our family. I don't want her to come back. I pulled my daughter into a hug, and she cried against my shoulder. Not for her mother, but for the family we used to be. It's going to be okay, I told her. We're going to be okay. Promise? Promise. But first, I had to make sure Elena and Greg understood that some promises can't be broken. Monday morning brought news that Greg Hanlon had been fired from his position as principal. The school board had voted unanimously to terminate his employment, citing conduct unbecoming of an educational professional and violation of the moral character clause in his contract. I heard about it from Sophie, who heard about it from her friends at school. Dad, everyone's talking about it, she said over breakfast. They're saying Uncle Greg got fired because of the affair. That's what happens when you make bad choices, kiddo. Are you happy about it? I considered the question. I'm satisfied that there were consequences. That's not the same thing as happy. No, it's not. Sophie studied my face. You're different now. Different how? Harder, like you used to be the nice parent, and Mom was the tough one. Now you're both. She wasn't wrong. The past 2 weeks had changed me in ways I was still discovering. The man who had trusted everyone was gone, replaced by someone who trusted no one and verified everything. Elena called me that afternoon. Greg lost his job. I heard. Tom, he has kids. He has a mortgage. How is he supposed to support his family? He should have thought about that before he decided to sleep with you. You're destroying innocent people. I'm not destroying anyone. Greg destroyed himself when he chose to have an affair with a married woman. The school board just made sure there were consequences. What about his kids? What about Mel? What about them? They're going to lose their house. Mel can't support the family on her salary alone. Then maybe Greg should get a job. Who's going to hire him now? Everyone in town knows what happened. That sounds like Greg's problem, not mine. Elena was quiet for a moment. You've become cruel, Tom. I've become realistic. There's a difference. This isn't who you used to be. The person I used to be got walked all over by his wife and his best friend. I decided I didn't like being that person anymore. So, you became someone who destroys families for revenge? I became someone who makes sure that actions have consequences. Tom, please. Greg and I are ready to leave. We've been looking at apartments in Grand Rapids. Just call off the dogs. Stop the campaign. Let us disappear quietly. It's too late for quietly, Elena. What do you mean? I mean, I've got one more surprise for you and Greg. Tom, tomorrow night, Riverside Restaurant, 7 p.m. Be there. Why? Because if you're not, I'll release everything I have on both of you to every news outlet in Michigan. What's at Riverside Restaurant? Your farewell party. I hung up before she could respond. Riverside Restaurant was Cedar Falls' fanciest establishment, the kind of place where people went for anniversaries and business dinners. I'd reserved the entire back dining room for Tuesday night, and I'd invited everyone who mattered anyway. Mel Hanlon and her kids, my mother and Sophie, Elena's former co-workers from the real estate office, Greg's former colleagues from the school district, our neighbors, our friends, anyone who had been affected by Elena and Greg's affair. I'd told them it was a community healing dinner to address the recent events that had disrupted our town's peace. I'd promised answers, closure, and a path forward. What I was really planning was a public execution. Elena and Greg arrived at 7 p.m. sharp, looking like they were walking to their own funeral. Elena wore a black dress and sunglasses, even though we were indoors. Greg wore a suit that looked like he'd slept in it. The dining room fell silent when they walked in. 40 people turned to stare at them, and I could see Elena's hands shaking. Thank you all for coming, I said, standing up at the head of the table. I know the past few weeks have been difficult for our community. We've all been affected by the recent revelations about Elena and Greg. Murmurs around the room. Mel Hanlon was staring at her soon-to-be ex-husband with undisguised hatred. Sophie was sitting next to my mother looking nervous. I thought it was important for us to come together, I continued, to address what happened, to clear the air, and to make sure everyone understands the full scope of the situation. Elena was looking around the room like a trapped animal. Greg was staring at his hands. Elena, Greg, would you like to say something to everyone? Tom, please. Elena started. Please what? Please don't tell everyone the truth. Please don't show them the evidence. Please don't make you face the people whose lives you've destroyed. I pulled out my laptop and connected it to the restaurant's projection system. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you something. The first image that appeared on the wall was a text message conversation between Elena and Greg, dated 6 months ago. Elena: Tom's working late again. Want to meet at the usual place? Greg: Can't tonight. Mel's suspicious. Maybe tomorrow? Elena: I'm getting tired of sneaking around. When are we going to tell them? Greg: Soon, after the holidays. We just need to be patient. The room was silent. Elena had gone pale, and Greg looked like he might throw up. This is just one of hundreds of messages, I said. Messages that show a deliberate, calculated affair that went on for months. Messages that show both Elena and Greg planning to destroy their marriages while lying to their spouses every single day. I clicked to the next slide. Financial records showing Elena moving money into a secret account. Elena has been hiding assets for months, I said, preparing for the divorce she was planning while pretending to be a loving wife. Next slide. Photos from the real estate conference in Detroit. Elena and several of her colleagues engaging in illegal drug use at a professional conference. Gasps around the room. Elena's former boss, Janet Morrison, looked shocked. Next slide. Text messages between Elena and her friends about their own affairs and illegal activities. Elena wasn't just cheating on me, I said. She was helping her friends cheat on their husbands and cover up their crimes. Stop, Elena said, standing up. Tom, please, stop this. Stop what? Stop telling the truth? You're humiliating us in front of everyone we know. You humiliated yourselves. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. Greg finally looked up. Tom, we get it. You're angry. You have every right to be angry. But this is cruel. Cruel? I laughed. You want to know what's cruel? Cruel is finding out your wife is cheating by watching her tapes with your daughter. Cruel is discovering that your best friend has been lying to your face for months. Cruel is learning that the daughter you've raised for 16 years might not even be yours. The room erupted in whispers. Sophie was crying, and my mother had her arm around her. That's right, I said, addressing the room. Sophie might not be my biological daughter. She might be Greg's daughter, but you know what? I don't care, because I'm the one who raised her. I'm the one who was there for every scraped knee, every bad dream, every school play. I'm the one who loves her unconditionally. I turned to Elena and Greg. You two threw away everything. Your marriages, your families, your reputations, your careers. For what? A few months of excitement? A few stolen afternoons in cheap motels? We love each other, Elena said quietly. You love the idea of each other. You love the thrill of sneaking around. You love the excitement of forbidden romance. But you don't love each other enough to be honest about it. You don't love each other enough to get divorced before starting your affair. You don't love each other enough to consider the consequences of your actions. I clicked to the final slide. A photo of Elena and Greg in his truck taken just last week. This photo was taken 3 days ago, I said. After everything that's happened, after all the damage you've caused, you're still sneaking around. You're still lying. You're still putting your own selfish desires above everyone else's well-being. The room was completely silent now. Elena was sobbing, and Greg looked like he wanted to disappear. So here's what's going to happen, I said. Elena and Greg are leaving Cedar Falls. They're leaving Michigan. They're going to start over somewhere else, far away from the people they've hurt. I looked around the room. And the rest of us are going to move on. We're going to rebuild our lives, our families, and our community. We're going to learn from this experience and make sure it never happens again. I closed the laptop. Elena, Greg, you have 1 week. After that, if you're still in town, I'll release everything I have to the media. Every text message, every photo, every financial record, every dirty secret. And I'll make sure it follows you wherever you go. Elena stood up, her legs shaking. Tom, I know I hurt you. You didn't hurt me, Elena. You destroyed me. But I rebuilt myself into someone stronger. Someone who doesn't let people walk all over him. someone who makes sure that actions have consequences. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. Elena and Greg left the restaurant together, walking through a room full of people who would never look at them the same way again. After they were gone, the room slowly came back to life. People started talking, asking questions, processing what they'd just witnessed. Mel Hanlon approached me. Thank you, she said simply. For what? For making sure everyone knew the truth, for making sure there were consequences. I nodded. How are you holding up? Better than I expected. It's hard, but at least now I know who Greg really is. What will you do now? Rebuild, move on, focus on my kids. She smiled sadly. Maybe learn to trust my instincts better. Sophie came over and hugged me. Dad, are you okay? Yeah, kiddo, I'm okay. Is it over now? Yeah, it's over. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't completely over. Elena and Greg still had to leave town, and I still had to make sure they understood that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. The final act was still to come. Thursday afternoon brought the news I'd been waiting for. Elena and Greg had been seen loading a U-Haul truck at Greg's house. According to Karen Mills, who had become my unofficial neighborhood intelligence network, they were planning to leave Friday morning. I should have felt satisfied. They were leaving, just like I'd demanded. Sophie was safe with me, the divorce papers were signed, and Elena had agreed to minimal visitation rights. I'd won, so why did I feel like something was unfinished? The answer came at 3:30 p.m. when Sophie's school called. Mr. Lasker, this is Principal Martinez. Sophie never showed up for 6th period, and she's not responding to our calls. Do you know where she is? My blood went cold. She's not at school? No, sir. She was here for lunch, but she missed English and biology. Her friends said they saw her getting into a red BMW in the parking lot. Elena's car. I was in my truck and driving before Principal Martinez finished talking. Elena wouldn't be stupid enough to kidnap Sophie, would she? She'd agreed to let me have custody. She'd signed the papers. But desperate people did desperate things, and Elena was nothing if not desperate. I called Elena's phone, straight to voicemail. I called Greg's phone, also voicemail. I drove to Elena's sister's house in Grand Rapids, but no one was home. I drove to the Riverside Motel where Elena and Greg used to meet. Empty. Finally, I drove to Greg's house. The U-Haul was in the driveway, half loaded with boxes and furniture. Greg's blue Ford F-150 was parked behind it, and Elena's red BMW was parked on the street. I could hear voices from inside the house, Elena and Greg arguing about something, and underneath their voices I could hear Sophie crying. I called 911 as I walked up the driveway. 911, what's your emergency? This is Tom Lasker. My ex-wife has taken my daughter without permission. I'm at 1247 Oak Street. I need police here now. Sir, is this a custody dispute? My ex-wife violated our custody agreement and took my minor daughter from school without permission. I need police here immediately. Officers are on the way, sir. Please don't enter the residence. I hung up and walked to the front door. Through the window, I could see Elena pacing in the living room while Sophie sat on the couch, still in her school clothes, tears streaming down her face. Greg was standing near the kitchen, gesturing frantically at Elena. I tried the front door. Locked. I walked around to the back of the house. The sliding door was open. I could hear their conversation clearly now. Can't just take her, Elena, Greg was saying. This is kidnapping. She's my daughter, Elena shot back. I have a right to see her. Not like this. Not by taking her from school without permission. I'm not leaving without saying goodbye to my daughter. Mom, please, Sophie said through her tears. I want to go home. I want to go back to Dad. Sophie, honey, I need you to understand something, Elena said, sitting down next to her on the couch. Your father has been lying to you. He's been turning you against me." "He hasn't been lying," Sophie said. "I saw the videos, remember? I know what you did." "Sophie, those videos don't tell the whole story. They tell enough of the story." I stepped through the sliding door into the kitchen. Greg saw me first, and his face went white. "Tom, get away from my daughter." Elena spun around. "Tom, how did you—" "Elena, let Sophie go. Now. I'm not done talking to her." "Yes, you are." I walked into the living room, and Sophie immediately stood up and ran to me. I put my arms around her, and she buried her face in my chest. "Dad, I'm sorry," she whispered. She said she just wanted to talk, but then she brought me here and started saying all these things about you. "It's okay, kiddo. You're safe now." Elena was staring at us with a mixture of rage and desperation. "She's my daughter too, Tom. I have rights." "You gave up your rights when you decided to have an affair with Greg. You gave up your rights when you traumatized Sophie by letting her see those videos. You gave up your rights when you chose your own selfish desires over your daughter's well-being." "I made mistakes." "Stop calling them mistakes," I exploded. "A mistake is an accident. A mistake is something you do without thinking. What you did was deliberate. What you did was calculated. What you did was a choice." Greg stepped forward. "Tom, let's all calm down." "Shut up, Greg. You don't get to play peacemaker. You don't get to pretend you're the reasonable one. You're a 43-year-old man who seduced a married woman and destroyed 2 families. That's not what happened?" "That's exactly what happened. You saw an opportunity to take advantage of my wife's unhappiness, and you took it. You didn't care about the consequences. You didn't care about Sophie or Mel or your own kids. You cared about getting laid." Greg's face flushed red. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" "Tell me, Greg, how many times did you come to my house for dinner while you were sleeping with my wife? How many times did you sit at my table, play with my daughter, and pretend to be my friend while you were planning to destroy my marriage? It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. You're a liar and a coward, and now everyone knows it." Elena stood up. "Tom, stop attacking him. This is between you and me." "No, Elena. This is between all of us. Greg made the choice to sleep with you. You made the choice to cheat on me, and now Sophie has to live with the consequences of both of your choices." I looked down at my daughter, who was still clinging to me. "Sophie, go wait in my truck." "Dad, go. Now." Sophie looked at Elena one last time, then walked out the front door. I heard my truck door slam. "Now," I said, turning back to Elena and Greg, "let me make something very clear to both of you. If you ever, and I mean ever, try to take Sophie again without my permission, I will have you arrested for kidnapping. If you ever try to contact her at school, I will get a restraining order. If you ever try to turn her against me, I will make sure every person in whatever town you move to knows exactly what kind of people you are." "Tom," Elena started, "I'm not finished. You two destroyed my family. You destroyed Mel's family. You destroyed Greg's relationship with his own kids. You destroyed your careers, your reputations, and your place in this community. And for what? For a few months of sneaking around like teenagers?" I stepped closer to them. "You want to know the really pathetic part? You could have just gotten divorced. You could have ended your marriages honestly and started a relationship without destroying everyone around you. But you didn't, because the sneaking around was half the fun, wasn't it? The lying was part of the thrill." Elena was crying again. "We never meant for anyone to get hurt." "Everyone got hurt, Elena. Everyone. Sophie, Mel, Greg's kids, your friends whose secrets you shared with me, the people at your real estate office who lost their jobs because of your drug use. Everyone got hurt because you two were too selfish to consider the consequences of your actions." Greg was staring at the floor. "We know we screwed up, Tom. We know we hurt people. But this public humiliation, this destruction of our lives, when does it end? It ends when you leave town and never come back. And then what? We just disappear? We just pretend this never happened?" You live with it. Every day, for the rest of your lives, you live with what you did. You live with the knowledge that you destroyed families for your own selfish pleasure. You live with the guilt, the shame, and the consequences. I turned toward the door. You have until tomorrow morning. If you're still in Cedar Falls after that, I'll make sure your story goes viral. I'll make sure it follows you wherever you go. Tom, wait, Elena said. What about Sophie? When will I see her again? That's up to Sophie. If she wants to see you, she can call you. If she doesn't, then you'll live with that too. She's my daughter. No, she's not. She's Greg's daughter, biologically. She's my daughter emotionally. You're just the woman who gave birth to her and then abandoned her for a few months of excitement. Elena's face crumpled. I love her. If you loved her, you wouldn't have destroyed her family. If you loved her, you wouldn't have traumatized her with your intimate tapes. If you loved her, you wouldn't have kidnapped her from school today. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. You know what the really sad part is? I actually feel sorry for you, both of you, because you had everything. Families who loved you, children who looked up to you, friends who trusted you, and you threw it all away for something that was never going to last. I looked at Greg. How's it feel, Greg? Was it worth it? Was 6 months of sneaking around with my wife worth losing your job, your family, and your reputation? Greg didn't answer. I looked at Elena. And you, Elena? Was it worth it? Was the thrill of having an affair worth losing your daughter, your home, and your place in this community? Elena was sobbing too hard to speak. That's what I thought. I walked out of the house and got into my truck, where Sophie was waiting for me. Are they really leaving tomorrow? She asked. Yeah, kiddo, they're really leaving. Good. I don't want to see them again. Sophie, Elena is still your mother. No, she's not. Not anymore. You're my family now. You and Grandma Ruth. That's enough. I pulled out of Greg's driveway and headed home, leaving Elena and Greg to finish packing their truck and their regrets. The next morning, Karen Mills called to tell me that the red BMW and the blue Ford F-150 were both gone from Oak Street. Elena and Greg had left Cedar Falls, just like I'd demanded. It was over. That afternoon, I sat on my front porch with a cup of coffee and watched the neighborhood kids walk home from school. Normal life, resuming its normal rhythm. Sophie came up the driveway with her backpack and a smile, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in weeks. How was school? I asked. Good. People have stopped talking about the whole thing. I think everyone's ready to move on. Are you ready to move on? Sophie thought about it. Yeah, I think so. She sat down next to me on the porch swing. Dad? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For protecting me. For fighting for me. For making sure there were consequences. You don't have to thank me for that, kiddo. That's what fathers do. I know, but I wanted to say it anyway. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the world go by. Dad? Sophie said eventually. Yeah? Are you happy now? I considered the question. Was I happy? I wasn't sure. But I was something else, something better than happy. I was at peace. Yeah, kiddo, I'm happy. Good. Because you deserve to be happy. The sun was setting over Cedar Falls, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere, Elena and Greg were starting their new lives in a new town, carrying the weight of their choices with them. But here, on my front porch with my daughter, life was good. The clouds of betrayal had finally cleared, and I could see the sky again.